Good morning, everybody. This is a live emergency briefing as we have a moderate risk that has been issued across western through central Oklahoma. That does include the Oklahoma City metro. This is definitely the most substantial October tornado setup in Oklahoma that we have seen, or at least fall season outbreak, since October 4, 1998. And that was actually the first tornado that I ever saw. There were 19 tornadoes across the Oklahoma City metro area that day, so it was a pretty major outbreak. And I saw my first tornado in my storm chasing career looking off to the east toward the Perry area. And today looks similarly dangerous, if not even more so. And here you can see that shortwave trough that is migrating across near the Four Corners area. This is the jet streak. You can see that elevated mix layer right here within orange and red. And this elevated mix layer is going to overspread the target area here. Very potent upper level storm system. You can see all these gravity waves within this system here as that stronger jet streak is passing over that mountainous terrain there of southern New Mexico. So a very dangerous day is ahead across Oklahoma in that dry line zone, just ahead of the dry line near the triple point. Majority of the models are showing multiple tornadic supercells moving up that I-44 corridor, even a couple supercells further west out near the Elk City area, far western Oklahoma. Looks like there could be a couple of initial supercells, a couple target areas, maybe one developing down near Altus, another one a little bit further west, moving up toward the Elk City to Clinton area, another one sliding right up the I-44 corridor toward the Oklahoma City area. So this target area was pretty dialed in here across southwestern into central Oklahoma in the yellow. And definitely the Storm Prediction Center did decide to go moderate risk with this setup. And we've already got mid to upper 60s dew points streaming northward through Oklahoma. You can see Oklahoma City there, 61, 64 just to the southeast, and then down to Pauls Valley, Purcell, 65, 64 type dew points. And you can see these backed winds here just pumping that moisture northwestward. This is definitely a very favorable setup, and there is an enhanced risk as well in the day 3 outlook. So that would be on Tuesday. It looks like western Kansas, northwestern Oklahoma into southwestern Nebraska looks to be the main target area for that setup. And that looks to be even a more widespread severe weather event across that warm sector, and there could even be a winter storm back behind it. So here you can see the 3-kilometer NAM depiction of the upper features that we just observed, just saw there on satellite. And you can see that trough axis is approaching the New Mexico, I guess we'll call it a blob of vorticity, is approaching that New Mexico-Arizona line. Here is the 3-kilometer NAM showing you that very potent shortwave trough. You can see this big-time jet streak whipping around the southern side of that vortex. This vortex is over northwestern New Mexico as of this morning, as of 13Z, 8 a.m. so far, Central Time. And you can start to see that strong flow starting to eject over the warm sector, over the panhandle here. Very strong 80 knot, 500 millibar jet streak whipping around the southern edge of that vortex. And that's going to excite a big-time low-level jet as well. It already is. It's already starting to pump that moisture northward this morning. And look at this potent vortex. This is incredible here over northern New Mexico, about to eject across the panhandles. This is at 16Z. So it does look like that slightly faster timing that was being depicted by the 3-kilometer NAM is still holding firm here across the southern plains. This is definitely a big setup. This is the most substantial setup that we have chased in a long time, maybe since 2019 here in the southern plains. And in terms of a fall season outbreak, definitely one of the more substantial outbreaks that we've chased since October 4 of 1998. I've got Captain Vanover with me today, the drone racer, so we're going to be trying to accomplish our mission again, flying the racing drone around a tornado, inside of a tornado, I'm also going to be deploying the subsonic sensor today as well. So here you can see this trough ejection by 19Z. It's already starting to approach the Texas panhandle there from the west. And this is definitely a very cold pocket of air aloft as well. A big bowling ball here. Smaller bowling ball than the one that's going to eject on Tuesday, but this is definitely substantial. And look at that jet streak starting to eject across the panhandle region. I'm thinking that this could even be a little bit closer to the Oklahoma-Texas border for initiation by 21Z, but with such fast storm motions here, 40-knot storm motions, at least initially, you don't want to be underneath these when they first develop, because then you could easily fall behind. And it even looks like this shortwave is going to be even more potent than some of the earlier models were even forecasting. Here is the 3-kilometer NAM showing that low-level jet starting to develop, and it's really going to tighten up all the features when that compact shortwave trough begins to eject. You're going to see this low-level jet pull up nice and tight to that 850 low. That's likely going to be very close to where those storms initiate, possibly in the southwestern corner there of Oklahoma, and then it should ride that triple point, that 850 low, all the way up the I-44 corridor up toward Oklahoma City. And this is when it really ramps up by about 23Z. By 6 p.m. is when that wind shear really starts to crank. And I think that there's going to be storms that are initiating along this frontal zone. A dry line extends down to the south of that through northwestern Texas. And it does look like this further south 850 low is going to verify here by 6 p.m., located very close to the Altus area. Dry line extending off to the south of that. And watch this low-level jet ramp up with time as we go through the evening and back as well. So due southerly, even some easterly component within that low-level jet just slamming into this frontal zone. Winds behind the front, more northeasterly, so it's not a crashing cold front as I've seen some people describe this event. This is a very compact upper-level shortwave, a very compact backed low-level jet as well there. So that's at 0Z and big-time parameters there. This is the 3-kilometer NAM. I like to look at the environments more. The nose of the low-level jet, I don't like to dwell too much on exactly where the composite reflectivity is going to be forecast with these high-resolution convective allowing models. I like to look at more of the environment, and that environment is absolutely prime to the east of this storm that's likely to develop over southwestern Oklahoma, 250 plus 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative felicity, and that's only going to ramp up as you go toward 8 p.m., increasing even more here across central and eastern Oklahoma as that big low-level jet begins to develop. You can see a hole within that helicity field. That shows you where that supercell is likely going to evolve. And that is a nasty environment right there, everybody. In fact, that front pivots to a more north-south direction, so I don't see a too rapid evolution into a squall line, even though the 3-kilometer NAM likes to depict that often. This is going to be at 8 p.m., so you're going to have embedded supercells within this convective complex near the Oklahoma City metro, down through the Wichita Mountains there, starting to approach the I-35 corridor by about 7 to 9 p.m. here, and then building down into North Texas too late. So as we go through the evening, it does look like supercell storms build down into North Texas with tornado potential as well. It is going to start to shift to a bit of a linear mode here, but you're going to have embedded tornado circulations within that squall line because of the magnitude of the wind shear. 3-kilometer NAM still showing that tail end supercell going way up down to the south near the Del Rio area. Always seems to happen during these big outbreaks like this. But the low-level jet continues to crank. This is at 10 p.m. Your convective line is just to the east of the I-35 corridor. Your low-level jet is pushing 70 knots here, 65 to 70 knots. So this is what a bowling ball does when it ejects from the Four Corners area. Excites a big-time, strong, low-level jet there just off to its east. Look for fun, we can look at the significant tornado parameter. Ramps up big time overnight tonight, late evening. This is at 10 p.m. So Ardmore up through Ada area, even up toward Tulsa. Looks like that the nose of that substantial, significant tornado parameter, that strong low-level wind shear co-located with that surface-based cape, even starts to move up into southeastern Kansas. So southwestern Missouri, you need to keep an eye on this late night tonight. Looks like about a midnight time frame when that favorable environment arrives for tornadoes, the very nose of that instability. The greater conditions, the greater significant tornado parameter are located over eastern Oklahoma into northeastern Texas at this time. And then you can also see that southern mode trying to evolve down there to the east of Del Rio over the southern Texas Hill Country. I think that the cap's going to be a little bit too strong there. Strong elevated mix layer coming off northern Mexico with this system. Oh boy, there's a lot of sin down there. Some holes as well within that cape. So I do think that there could be a storm developing down near the Del Rio area as well. So let's take a look now at our friend the HRRR. I had someone, or my buddy here, Captain Vanover, the drone racer that's in town to accomplish our mission here, was saying, why don't you ever look at the HRRR? And I told him it's because I don't really like the model too much. I like to look at the models for the environments, for the position of these relevant features like the triple point, dry line, cold front, strength of the 850 load, jet streaks. And I just don't think that the HRRR, if it is right with its composite reflectivity, it's often right for the wrong reasons, and it has a bit of a dry bias as well. We can look even this morning and see how the dew points are. And you can see it is even a little bit low, just a couple of degrees low here in central Oklahoma, but that's at 13Z. And really the issue with the HRRR is when it over mixes those dew points. So during peak mixing, mid-afternoon into early afternoon, a lot of times it'll carve out those dew points, over mix them 4 or 5 degrees sometimes too low. But with these types of systems that are very kinematically active, you have a very strong low-level jet continuing to reinforce those dew points, reinforce that moisture depth. Usually the HRRR does a little bit better with these types of setups. But still, I think we could be pushing 70 dew points here, at least by 0Z across central Oklahoma. And it does look like the HRRR is just about 3 to 4 degrees C low. But it is in strong agreement with the 3-kilometer NAM in the position of that triple point here in southwestern Oklahoma, even at 0Z. So everything is just a little bit slower, but the convective allowing models still do show those supercell storms arriving in the Oklahoma City metro about 7 to 9 p.m., approaching the I-35 corridor. HRRR is in agreement with that, with these supercells here anchored along the nose of that low-level jet. These definitely could have tornado potential as they approach Oklahoma City. Looks like 7 to 9 p.m., maybe even a little bit earlier. But these are the storms that will likely be producing big-time tornadoes there across central Oklahoma, pushing into eastern Oklahoma as well. Look at that, 60-knot low-level jet just pumping into that storm. And kind of developing a complex 850 pattern. The HRRR isn't showing as compact of an 850 low as a 3-kilometer NAM. Still shows, though, the triple point, southwestern Oklahoma, dry line extending all the way down to the west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area by 8 p.m. And that low-level jet builds down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well. So 8, 9, 10 p.m., that dry line approaching DFW Metroplex. Models are showing supercells initiating down into North Texas as well. So even though this main supercell is going to cruise up through central Oklahoma City, probably similar to that Cooperton setup back in 2012 in April where there was a strong tornado southwest of OKC, and that one actually hit Norman. Ended up hitting the Jason's Deli there in Norman. We missed the Cooperton tornado. We were on storms a little bit too far west, got a little bit too aggressive on that day with those storms, and ended up going all the way back toward Childress to try to find more isolated storms. But they were very HP, those lead storms that produced the Cooperton, Oklahoma tornado 2012. So the HRRR builds this convective line all the way down into central Texas and connects it all the way with that Del Rio mode. Big squall line there by 10 p.m. This is at 0Z, showing those storms initiating down into central Texas by about 8 p.m. as well. Rapid unzipping of the line down here along the dry line. These will probably be supercell storms as well. The lead monsters, though, travel from southwest Oklahoma through central Oklahoma, through the OKC metro. This is at 8 p.m. Timing is in strong agreement with the 3-kilometer NAM. So definitely a strong agreement within the convective allowing models here. very dangerous day across Oklahoma City. So if you have questions about your storm shelter preparation, you can call my friends at tornadosafe.com here in the Oklahoma City area. They can answer all your questions. They're always answering those questions about tornado shelters. The Dominator 1 and 2 are actually on display at their Oklahoma City location on I-240 there, near the southeast side of the Oklahoma City Metro. Dominator 1 and 2 that I do plan on fixing up eventually. But they could get a tornado intercept today, it sure looks like. They could get an intercept today. So Dominator 1 has actually gotten one more intercept than I got because it was parked in my driveway there for that EF2 tornado that went right over my house. Gizmo was inside the house there as well. That was 2015 in early May. May 6th, the day after that, we had a big hail producer that came through Norman with baseballs coming in horizontally, blew out all the windows on the front of my house there in Norman, and I had the really low-grade insurance, kind of the default insurance that they get you if you don't like paperwork. So I was still able to replace that roof, thankfully. But let's look at a quick sounding here just for fun in the inflow zone of that supercell. And that is about as textbook as you can get in terms of forecast photographs. Let me reposition this photograph just a little bit there. So just next to my head, you can see that massive looping photograph there. That's the result of about 60 knots according to this, 50 to 60 knots here, 1 kilometer wind right at 60 knots, due southerly low-level jet, 60 knots, your surface wind, nicely backed, south-southeast at 20 knots, 25 knots, 20 to 25. Mid-level winds quite strong, 40, 50, 60 knots up there. Lot of wind shear, so you're carving out about 429 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative shear with that. Very deep moisture. Strong elevated mix layer here, steep low-level lapse rates as well. It's about as perfect as it can get here for a setup in the Southern Plains, and we are long overdue. We've been predicting that Tornado Alley would come alive in a big way here, and that's exactly what's happening. It's happening during the second season. We are breaking down some of those sea surface temperature anomaly patterns in the Pacific Ocean. A lot of cold water in the PDO horseshoe, which when you have a La Nina that lasts for over a year, it starts to populate the subtropical Pacific right around the eastern edge of that basin with those same anomalies of the same sign. So usually by year 2 La Nina, as those cold anomalies are continuing in the tropical Pacific Ocean, you'll get those cold anomalies that'll propagate through Kelvin wave action around the eastern periphery of that basin. And that's exactly what's happening. So there's a lot of cold water in the northeastern Pacific now, different than what we had spring 2021 with a lot of warm water from the preceding El Nino into the subtropical branch of the PDO. And that resulted in some El Nino-like teleconnection patterns across North America during the spring last year. So I do think that this active fall season and the awakening that we're seeing here of Tornado Alley is going to continue through the second season. And we do have that enhanced risk now for Tuesday. Western Kansas, northwestern Oklahoma as well. Looks pretty substantial, and that's going to be a main system that's going to eject behind this lead system here. It's only going to kind of push the moisture down into central Texas. It's a little bit too shallow of a trough, not that big crashing cold front that's going to push all the good dew points back into the western Gulf of Mexico. They're just going to sit there in central Texas and then rocket back to the north on Tuesday afternoon and evening. Looks like western Kansas into northwestern Oklahoma. Looks prime. Absolutely prime. And this is going to be a nocturnal severe weather event as well, with embedded tornadoes within that line. So after this blows by I-35, there's going to be numerous tornado warnings across eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, into southwestern Missouri, eventually pushing in to western Arkansas very late. We're talking about midnight, late evening out there, 11 p.m. type of a time frame. So that's going to be a big system, big event. Let's take a look at the wrap really quick as well, just to see how that triple point is going to evolve. And there is the moderate risk by the new outlook here, 8 a.m. outlook. And there is a threat of tornadoes as well across, especially southern lower Michigan. That's where the most favorable wind shear is located tomorrow. And that severe weather squall line will bend down all the way through a large portion of the state of Illinois, but that wind shear is going to veer a little bit southwest of lower Michigan. But then comes the big event here on Tuesday that we've been talking about for a very long time. There you can see that enhanced risk. This will likely be upgraded to a moderate as well in the coming days. I would say that confidence is very high in this evolving southern Nebraska through the entirety of western Kansas, down into northwestern Oklahoma, including Woodward up there, through that large swath of western Kansas into southwestern Nebraska. Big day on Tuesday, big outbreak as well, and all of this ejects up into eastern Iowa, Illinois area, Corn Belt on Wednesday for a very relatively low wind shear, but a high wind shear, low cape type of a setup. But that still looks substantial there on Tuesday. Big event happening. And we will, of course, monitor it, chase it, stream it live. But just really quick, even though we're all focused on Sunday, I want to show you this trough ejection on Tuesday that looks substantial. Models have done very good with this for days in advance leading up to this severe weather event. And there you can start to see that system coming in there. Pacific Northwest, a lot of flow on the backside as well. There you can see our lead system starting to lift up toward Michigan to cause potential tornadoes and severe weather up near the Great Lakes region. And that includes northern lower Michigan as well with this system. But look at our system for Tuesday. A lot of flow on the backside, still digging here into the Four Corners region. And then that ejects across Tornado Alley. Classic Tornado Alley ejection during the day on Tuesday. Look at that ski jump configuration. Textbook trough ejection right there. You usually want to target the nose of that ski jumper. You want it to pivot right around and then move over Tornado Alley by about peak heating. And that's exactly what happens there. 21Z. Big time storm system. Ski jump points toward western Kansas, even south central Nebraska. So I think you might want to target western Kansas for this event here. And you can always build down into northwestern Oklahoma as well, but maybe even more kinematically favorable across southern Nebraska. Blizzard conditions possible on the northwest side of this system as well. Big tornadoes, widespread tornado outbreak. 989 millibar low there in northeastern Colorado. Areas like Casper up toward Billings, likely blizzard conditions. Eventually it's going to change over in Deadwood, areas like that, near the Black Hills as well, as this system passes to the east and brings that cold air with it. Looks like quite a bit of snow all the way down into the northern mountains of New Mexico, even with this system. And look at that low, lifting all the way up into western Nebraska. Heavy rain on the northwestern side there of the Black Hills. Eventually is going to change over. Blizzard conditions across the high plains of Wyoming and the mountains there. Casper up well to the northwest of Cheyenne. Heading west on I-80 out of Cheyenne. Probably going to be even some road closures out there Tuesday night into Wednesday. And this system pulls that heavy snow down into the Cheyenne area Tuesday night. Changing over to snow Wednesday. Heavy snow in Cheyenne here, right on the back side of that low. And starts to change over in the Black Hills. This is Tuesday night. 988 low. Look at that in the Black Hills. You're going to get hammered in the Black Hills there. Lead, Deadwood, down into the northwestern portion of the Nebraska Panhandle as well. Severe weather by Wednesday morning is all the way out east in eastern Kansas out there, starting to knock on the door of Kansas City. Arc of convection off to the east. But big snow. Deadwood down through eastern Wyoming there. And that's going to be Tuesday night through Wednesday morning. Black Hills of South Dakota. And at that point then we're going to point the ship towards South Carolina for leaf peeping. There is going to be a hurricane that's going to be making landfall down near Mazatlan in Mexico. The intensity models are showing that to be about a Category 2 storm, weakening as it finally reaches the coastline of Mexico. Some of those models, though, are showing that it could be a Category 3 storm hitting Mazatlan there, Sinaloa province. But this storm is a big-time mid-latitude cyclone anchored over central South Dakota as of Wednesday, late morning into the afternoon. Black Hills getting absolutely pummeled by snow here. Western South Dakota, some of that higher terrain. Northern edge of the Black Hills having some orographic lift as well. Looks like a big cold rain, though, across large portions of North Dakota into the southern Canadian prairies as well. So a very dynamic mid-latitude cyclone. We call these Colorado lows here because they develop lee cyclogenesis in the high plains of Colorado and then often lift toward the northeast, due north. Has a blocking high up here over Hudson Bay. And then instability is going to be the issue here on a Wednesday. Looks like this is a vertically stacked low. The severe weather is going to be on the way out by Wednesday. Snow starting to wind down by Wednesday evening across the Black Hills there. Continuing, though, across eastern Montana, southern Saskatchewan. So that's your weather briefing here. Dangerous day expected today across Oklahoma as this potent shortwave trough is about to eject from the southwest. The orange colors there, that's that dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere that we call the elevated mix layer out there. And this is such a potent storm system that we do have that moderate risk that includes Lawton, Oklahoma City, all the way up to Tulsa. And it looks like the timing for Oklahoma City is going to be about 7 to 9 p.m., a little bit later than that, later in the evening, up toward Tulsa, eastern Oklahoma, eventually into northwestern Arkansas as well. And then an enhanced risk does include the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as the convective allowing models are showing supercells initiating down into North Texas. So the target area remains the same, southwestern Oklahoma. Not surprising that the Storm Prediction Center did bend that moderate risk off to the west finally. The models have been very good with showing that the initiation of supercell storms was going to happen over southwestern Oklahoma for days in advance with this one. Some discrepancies existed up until last night, but those seem to be alleviated with the track of that 850 low right up the I-44 corridor, southwestern Oklahoma toward Oklahoma City. Storm chase mode is about to be activated. I've got Captain Vanover with me, the drone racer. We're going to try to accomplish that drone shot again. Also deploying the subsonic sensor out there as close as we can to this tornado to try to record some microbarometer data. So thank you everybody for tuning into my weather reports. It is time to get ready for chase mode. Never stop chasing.